It's another Brew Tools brew day. Right, what are we brewing today? We are brewing a Grapefruit IPA. Oh, juicy banger. I have created this recipe myself. I have some grapefruit extract, pink grapefruit extract, which I got from the malt miller, which apparently is what all the pro breweries will tend to use for grapefruit infused beers. So that will go in when I package the beer, so it will go in with the keg. So for all intents and purposes, the actual beer, as it's being brewed, is just a hoppy American pale ale. So this will be coming in about 5%. This beer I am calling Grapefruit Falcon. Yeah, it is nearly 5 kilos of pale ale malt, which I'm actually using Clear Choice from Crisp, which is a new product. I just got a 25 kilo sack of. If you want to know more about that grain, Google it. There is a little bit of light crystal and a very small amount of honey malt, so I'm just adding a little sweetness overall to the beer, which will be balanced out with Magnum at first wort, Amarillo and Simcoe at 15 minutes, Citra at 10 minutes, and then Amarillo, Citra and Simcoe in the whirlpool. And then I'll be adding a dry hopping at the end of fermentation with Amarillo and Citra. So going for a fairly typical American pale ale type wort profile, so relatively high on the sulfites, and I am going to be fermenting this with Voss Kveik, however you want to pronounce that, which by all accounts adds some nice spicy orange esters, so that will work really well. Just fortunate because it just happens to be in my fridge. I didn't buy it specifically for this beer, so I'm mashing at 65 degrees and I will be fermenting at 32, so fairly high. I've done a yeast starter of the Voss, which I went absolutely mental. This morning I came down to a fairly substantial mess out of the Erlenmeyer flask. It was loving life, but I will only use a very small amount of that into the beer, and then I'll keep the rest for future brew. So the water profile, just going back to the water profile, I'm using RO water, and there is I believe 3:1 chloride to sulfate ratio, so it's 200 parts sulfite, 55 chloride. So it will be definitely coming out quite hoppy, hopefully quite dry. So that is the recipe. The B80pro is just coming up to temp. In fact, it is 0.2 degrees off strike temp at 69 degrees, and then I'll be mashing in, so you guys will get to see a bit of that. We're all mashed in. I missed my mash temperature by a couple of degrees, so we are currently sat at 67 degrees. Annoyingly, I keep setting the system to heat up, set the strike temperature, and then forget to turn it to the mash mode and change it to the mash temperature, so it will continue to heat whilst I mash. So this is the second time I've done this, and then I've ended up overshooting my mash temperature. So yeah, slight fuck up. I, as you probably observed during the mash, had the full volume of water in the B80pro, forgotten to draw off the sparge water into my HLT, and then immediately mashed in with it. I did think this mash is looking very thin, so what I've done is I have, given that was only a few minutes of actually being mashed, was I have now run it off into the HLT. So I have what might be best described as a very weak wort in the HLT, which I will use to sparge with. Here is the mash. So we've got a very slow circulation going on there, and if you've not steamed up already, a decent whirlpool. Guys, so I just checked the runoff that I put into the HLT, and it is about 10:16. Whilst I'm busy mashing the Grapefruit Falcon, I am racking my Imperial Stout, my bourbon Imperial Stout. Look at that, that is like, it's like a mirror, it's like oil. So this Imperial Stout I think is coming in at about 9%, and obviously adding in the bourbon I think it's going to hit at least 10. So I'm really excited about this beer. Naturally I'll probably be keeping it until the winter comes. Hopefully it'll be about ready then. It will be aged on French oak chips, which I've had soaking in bourbon for about 500 ml of bourbon for the last couple of weeks. I am just in the process of transferring this from the Firmzilla, doing a oxygen-free transfer, so using the spunding valve. The bourbon is already in there at the bottom with the oak, so just racking that straight off, which is, I would say, my favourite aspect of this particular fermenter. Finished the sparge, and we are now just coming up to a boil. That's what it's looking right now. I just quickly whirlpool just to mix it up and be able to do a pre-boil gravity reading. I'm pleased to report that pre-boil gravity is pretty much bang on. So the hops, I forgot to tell you about the hops. So it was Magnum first wort hop, 12.5 grams. It was Simcoe and Amarillo, 12.5 grams each, at 15 minutes, and 12.5 grams of Citra at 10 minutes. And then it was 90 grams for a whirlpool, which was made up of Simcoe, Amarillo and Citra, 30 grams each. 15-minute addition going in, 10-minute addition going in. This is just Citra. So we're now at a boil, and the clarity of the beer was really nice, the colour of the beer was really nice, so I am feeling really positive about this beer. I think what I'm looking forward to is hopefully getting a good clarity on this American Pale Ale. I'm used to making a lot of hazy beers, but it would be nice to try and get something with some really good clarity. So Something really hoppy, something nice and clear with that lovely kind of copper kind of colour on it. So hopefully that will be how it ends up coming out. I'll be adding this fairly sizable Whirlpool edition, so that'll be going in. Just going to kill the pump for a minute. Right, beer is transferred. The Trub Trapper did a pretty decent job of capturing everything in the middle, although admittedly the Whirlpool thing needs to improve slightly. We've got a fairly turbid looking wort, but transferred quite a bit of Trub by the looks of it, but that should settle out. Volume wise, yeah, I'm a little short I think, but I should squeeze out a keg of that. So here's the Voss. So I'm probably only going to pitch about a third of that, I think, about a third, and then keep the rest, because I really do want to kind of under pitch this beer, which you want to really do with Kveik. About 7 hours later, and we have got a snow globe. The yeast is very happy in there. So it's tasting time. There she is. There's the Grapefruit Falcon. So you may recall from earlier in the video I mentioned about how I really like to brew a lovely copper coloured beer. Well, got fairly close there, but clarity is, as you can see, not brilliant. But I think it's primarily because I've used the Voss Kveik, which I think notoriously tends to get very cloudy. It doesn't clear easily, certainly in my experience of only using it twice. But I'm really pleased with the flavour that I got from the yeast, the orangey flavour. Initially I did get a lot of earthiness for the first week or two in the keg. But that subsided and just left a nice orangey vibe going on. The grapefruit has been a great addition. So the extract I added, I think about half the bottle. It was a 15ml bottle. I added about 0.5 mils per litre initially. Tried it, wasn't enough, added about 25% more. So I used about 2/3 of the bottle. I used about 10ml in the end. This added a really, really nice, lovely, what you would expect, grapefruit aroma on beer. There's some good bitterness there. It's not forceful, but it's there, which is nice. That balances the beer out. It's probably a medium to light body. the beer is reasonably dry. I finished at 10-12, I think, so it's not super dry, but I think the pithiness, that kind of bitterness, the grapefruit pithiness kind of adds to that perception. It's not astringent as such, but it sort of adds that kind of vibe of wanting to go back for another slurp. So it's a very drinkable beer, which is really nice. So the hops have added lots of orange, citrus that's melding with the grapefruit. Yeah, so overall I'm really pleased with this beer. I would rebrew it. I think the primary reason I brewed it was because I wanted to use up the grapefruit extract, and kind of bought it with the intention of making a grapefruit beer. I think if I was to brew it again, I'd probably just use a clean American yeast, to be honest, rather than a Kveik. It added an interesting dimension, but I'd be interested to see what it came out like. I think it would probably accentuate the grapefruit a little bit more. I think maybe the flavours are a little bit muddled. I think that's an extreme criticism, but yeah, there you go. So I think if anyone would like one, comment below, send me a message on Facebook or wherever, on YouTube, and I'll do my best to try and get you one out. Cheers, guys.